Today we are making clay fish. So to begin, we're going to take our clay. We are going to flatten it as best as we can with our hands on that fabric. I'm going to flip it over, make sure it's not stuck, and then I'm going to use the rolling pin. So if you are struggling with this, a teacher will be around to help you, but just be patient. Try to flatten this out by moving your fabric around and trying to keep it into a rounded shape. You don't want to roll it flat and skinny. We're rolling it to try to fit this circle shape. So I'm almost there. I'm going to pick it up, peel it off that fabric, and flip it over. That kind of helps to get your clay to stretch out a little bit further. Okay, there it is. That is just perfect. I'm going to cut around the edges, pushing hard enough so I'm cutting my clay. And that extra around the edge I'm going to keep. That's going to be details for my fish. This middle part is going to be the fish body. So it is flat. When clay is rolled flat, it's called a slab. This slab is going to become the body of our fish. So this is going to look similar to last year's clay rattle project. I am going to slip and score the perimeter of the clay all the way around. So I'm not going inside, just the outside. That's called the perimeter. I'm going to need one large sheet of newspaper. If you end up with two small ones, that's fine. I'm going to fold this so that when I crinkle it, it's kind of like a tube. It's long and thin. I'm going to have this, so some of the clay is sticking out this back side, and the newspaper is hanging out the other side. So as I fold this over, kind of looking like those taco rattles we made, one side is going to become the back. That's going to close up. This front side is going to be the fish's mouth. Okay, so it's okay if you pull this out a little bit further so that you have enough space to seal off that edge. So I am going to pinch this. You can pinch hard and make this look like the scales or the spine or the fin of the fish. Ignore that bell. If you want to cut on this edge, you could do that as well. So I'm going to tap this first to make sure the bottom is flat and this fish is going to stand up. Then I'm going to lay this on the side and I'm going to cut triangles out of the top. So it's going to look like he has, or she has, a very pointy, sharp top or fin. So I'm just picking those triangles out. So I have taken stuff off my clay. I have subtracted my clay. I also want to add things on my clay. So oftentimes kids want to add eyes. For sure you're going to want to have some eyes on your fish. So I am going to round these. And these can be as large or as small as you'd like. To me right now these look like pretty big grapes. When you add anything with clay, you have to do that slipping and scoring. So I'm going to do that to both sides on the front where I'm going to put the eyes. And then just setting them on there is not going to make them stay. They're going to roll right off. So one at a time, I am going to do that last smearing step, which means I'm actually pushing my clay together and rubbing my finger around that edge so that it doesn't look like they're two pieces. I want it to look like they're one piece. So some of you may have noticed that when I was doing that, I actually put my hand inside the fish's mouth. That helps so that my finger is pushing against the fingers on the inside. If you just push, chances are your clay might rip. So those fingers in the mouth are kind of supporting it. Some kids like to attach fins on the side of their fish. So I'm going to take some of these extra scraps. I'm going to flatten them out. And if you want to use the rolling pin for this part, you can. I'm going to cut these into triangles, or they could be oval shapes. Peel those off. Okay, there's my two triangles. I want them to be similar in size, so I'm going to do a little more trimming on them. And I'm ready to attach those. Slip score. This, kids oftentimes want the fins out. But in order for them to stick out safely, I'm actually going to attach them flat. I'm going to smear those pieces together. And I'm going to get them to pop out by just kind of bending them. So slip score, put it on flat, smear them together, and then you can bend them out. Last thing is a choice. So you have to have eyes. You have to have these side fins. If you want the tail of your fish to be a little longer, this is usually the toughest attachment and it tends to break off. I would slip and score one side of the back. I made a coil and it's quite large. I know I'm not going to use this whole thing, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlap these quite a bit and pinch them together. So as I'm pinching, I'm smearing them together, getting those pieces to stick together. And this tail is probably just going to break off at this point because it's sticking out too long. So I'm going to take some of it off and I'm going to curve it slightly. That's going to help it so it stays on and doesn't break off when it gets hit. You can continue those patterns down the back side so that it looks like the same as the top of the fish. At this point, I'm ready for textures. I'm going to break off that little piece too. Textures to make it look like a real fish. At your tables, you have some tools that you could use to give some eye texture. I think these marker caps work great to make it look like the textures of the scales. Some of the marker caps create a cool bumpy texture when you roll them. So have fun, maybe smearing, making this look really nice and smooth. A little dab of water on my fingerprint or on my finger will help to kind of smooth out those rough edges and make them nice. So take some time on this last step to really make it look like a unique fish. When you're finished, the last step is to get your name at the bottom with one of the tools. So I'm going to write the year, and then it's going to go on the counter to dry.